أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال له موسى هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا قال له موسى هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome to Rushed Family, a space for real families, real marriages, and real hearts that are trying to find their way back to peace. Not a space for perfect homes or flawless relationships. It is a space for couples who once loved deeply, who may still care quietly, yet now find themselves exhausted by a tension they struggle to name or to even explain. Many of you listening are now angry all the time. You're simply tired of revisiting the same conversations without feeling understood, tired of guarding your words, tired of wondering how closeness slipped into distance without either of you intending it. You may still be sharing home, raising children, fulfilling responsibilities, yet emotionally feel as though you are standing on the opposite side of something you never meant to build. Most marriages do not collapse with a loud explosion. They wear down slowly. Conversations become shorter because it feels safer. Defensiveness becomes normal because vulnerability feels risky. Silence begins to feel more peaceful than honesty. Not because honesty disappeared, but because it no longer feels safe. And without realizing it, two people who were meant to be garment for one another begin to live like opponents, navigating daily life as if they are on different teams. A home breaks quietly long before it breaks loudly. Where love exists, ego must not lead. Pain that goes unheard does not disappear, it hardens. You can win an argument and still lose the relationship. Families heal not when pride prevails, but when hurt are willing to soften. What you're facing is often not the absence of love, but the presence of unhealed pain and unspoken apologies that have been waiting for space. And that is what we are going to gently explore together today, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. Most couples do not wake up one day hating each other. Hatred is rarely the beginning. What usually comes first is fatigue, a deep, quiet exhaustion that settles into the heart long before it shows on the face. Tired of repeating the same point and feeling unheard. Tired of carrying emotions that never seem to land safely. Tired of being the one who always bend or the one who always feels accused no matter how much they try. In many Muslim marriages, the foundation was sincere. The nikah was entered with dua, hope, and genuine intention. There was love, or at least deep respect, and a real desire to do things the right way. And often that desire is still there. The commitment has not disappeared. What has faded is a sense of emotional safety that once made closeness feel natural. Part of the struggle is that many of us were never taught how to tend to hurt. We were taught patience, but not how to express pain without turning it into blame. We were taught endurance, but not how to be emotionally honest without becoming defensive. We were taught responsibility, roles, and duty, but not repair, reconciliation, and return. Support became silence, strength became suppression, and unspoken pain. Learn how to wait. Islam never asks us to carry pain alone. Patience in the Quran was never passive suffering. It was anchored in hope, trust, and communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet in marriages, sabr is often misunderstood as swallowing hurt indefinitely until the heart hardens or explodes. What was meant to be patience turns into emotional distance. So, pain accumulates quietly. Each unresolved moment leaves a trace. Each conversation that ended without understanding becomes another layer. Each apology that never came becomes evidence the heart stores for later. Over time, these moments turn into ammunition, not because spouses want to fight, but because the pain has never been named or held. Slowly, the person who was once a source of comfort begins to feel like the source of stress. Not because love died, but because pain was never translated into language of mercy. The heart, trying to protect itself, shifts into defense, and in defense mode, even love feels dangerous. If this is where you find yourself, pause and breathe. This is not a sign that your marriage is broken beyond repair. It is a sign that wounds have been ignored for too long. Many couples are not fighting each other, they're fighting pain, fatigue, and misunderstanding without realizing it. And Allah, in His mercy, brings awareness before it brings change. Let us begin by naming the real problem, because healing cannot start while the wrong enemy is being fought. Your spouse is not your enemy. The unhealed pain between you is. Most couples do not turn against each other because love disappears. They turn against each other because pain goes unrecognized for too long. When hurt is dismissed, minimized, or misunderstood, the heart shifts into protection. The body and mind prepare for defense, not connection. Psychology calls this threat perception, the nervous system's way of saying, I am not safe. Islam names this state ghafla of the heart, a kind of emotional heedlessness where compassion is replaced by reactivity. In this state, listening changes its purpose. You no longer listen to understand, you listen to survive. Words are filtered through fear. Tone matters more than meaning, and intention is assumed rather than clarified. This is why small comments begins to feel like attacks. Neutral silence feels like rejection. Gentle correction feels like disrespect. The heart already wounded interprets everything through the lens of self-protection. And because the pain itself is never translated into words, it finds other exits. Sarcasm becomes safer than honesty. Withdrawal feels easier than vulnerability. Anger feels stronger than admitting hurt. Emotional shutdown feels protective, even though it deepens the distance. What is often missed in this moment is this simple truth: your spouse is reacting to their wounds, not plotting against you, and you're reacting to yours. Two hurting hearts, each trying to protect itself, can easily begin to treat each other like threats. Your spouse is not against you, they are hurting beside you. Pain that remains unspoken slowly turns into blame. When hurt is ignored, love no longer feels safe. Most fights are not about what was said, but about the wound it touched. Allah described marriage as sakina, a state of tranquility that calms the soul. But sakina cannot exist where pain is denied or dismissed. Tranquility does not come from avoiding conflict, it comes from facing hurt with mercy. A home cannot feel peaceful while hurt are quietly bleeding. The first step towards healing is not winning the argument. It is recognizing that the real battle is not between the two spouses, but against the pain that has gone unheard for too long. Let us pause here because once pain is misunderstood, something else quietly takes its place. One of the most damaging shifts in marriages does not happen through betrayal or open hostility. It happens quietly when apologies begins to disappear, not because mistakes are no longer made, but because pride quietly steps in as a guardian of the ego. At first, it feels like self-respect, a need to protect dignity, a refusal to be taken advantage of. But over time, pride changes shape. It begins to whisper that apology means losing, that softening means surrender, that admitting fault weakens your position in the relationship. And once this belief takes hold, hurt begin to armor themselves. Islam teaches us the opposite. The Prophet, peace be upon him, did not lose authority when he apologized or softened. He gained hurt. His strength was never in dominance, but in humility. His leadership never came from being right, but from being just. In his presence, people felt safe enough to change because they were never humiliated for their mistakes. Modern psychology echoes this truth. Research consistently shows that what sustains relationships is not perfection, but repair. Healthy couples are not those who never hurt each other. They are those who know how to return after hurt. They understand that rupture is inevitable, but repair is a choice. Yet, many marriages get stuck in this painful place, each spouse waiting for the other to move first, each one convinced that apologizing will be an admission of weakness rather than an act of courage. So silence becomes the shield, distance becomes the punishment, and with every apology withheld, another brick is quietly added to the wall between them. Silence in a marriage is not peace, it is emotional distance wearing a disguise. Pride keeps scores, mercy keeps homes alive. Apologies do not weaken authority, they restore trust. Where apologies die, resentment quietly grows. Islam never honored pride in relationships, it honored humility, gentleness, and ihsan, excellence. Ihsan calls us to give more than what is deserved, to respond with excellence, even when the ego demands restraint. In marriage, ihsan often looks like lowering your guard, admitting fault, and choosing the relationships over being right. A home cannot heal while pride speaks louder than mercy, and a heart cannot soften while it's busy protecting its image. And when pride stays long enough, the marriage begins to feel like something else entirely. This is the stage where many couples feel something has fundamentally shifted. The marriage no longer feels like a place of rest. It feels like a place of vigilance. Two people still living under the same roof, still sharing responsibilities, still committed on paper, yet emotionally bracing themselves for impact. Every conversation begins to feel strategic. Words are chosen carefully, not to connect, but to avoid blame. Every disagreement feels like a battle that must be survived rather than a problem that can be solved together. Each person is trying to protect themselves from being hurt again. And in that posture of defense, no one feels safe enough to soften. This is a tragedy of unhealed pain. The same person you once trusted with your most vulnerable parts becomes the person you guard yourself against most. Not because they became cruel, but because wounds were never repaired. Trust was not restored, and the heart learned that openness comes at a cost. Arguments stop being about understanding and start becoming about winning. Listening is replaced with rehearsing response. The goal is no longer clarity, but control. And slowly, without either spouse intending it, the relationship shifts from partnership to power struggle. You can win the argument and lose the relationship. Defensiveness is the body's cry for safety, not defiance. A marriage cannot heal while both hearts remain armed. Love does not survive in constant self protection. Islam made us understand that spouse is a garment for one another. A garment shields from harm, covers your flaws, and brings warmth and comfort. It is meant to rest gently against the skin, but a garment that scratches, tightens, or wounds cannot fulfill its purpose, no matter how well it looks from the outside. When marriage turns into a battlefield, the question is no longer who is right, but how safety can be restored. Because tranquility cannot return to a home until both hurt believe they can lower their weapons without being wounded again. Now that we understand the wound, let us talk about healing. without overwhelming ourselves. Healing in a marriage does not begin with grand declarations or dramatic conversations. It begins quietly with awareness. Before pointing outwards, pause and ask yourself a difficult but liberating question. What pain am I protecting right now? Often, our sharp reactions are not about the present moment, but about old wounds that have never felt safe enough to be acknowledged. Awareness softens the heart before words ever do. From that place, replace assumptions with conversations. Assumptions feels efficient, but they are deeply unfair. They assign intention without evidence and close the door to understanding. Conversations, on the other hand, invite clarity, speaks about your feeling before they harden into judgment. Saying, I felt odd, opens space for connection, while saying, you always invite defense. Practice soft repair as a habit, not as a last resort. A simple apology, offered sincerely, without conditions, has the power to disarm years of accumulated tension. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. It is not an admission of defeat. It is an act of courage that tells your spouse the relationship matters more than your ego. Lower your tone before raising your point. The manner in which something is said often matters more than what is said. Speak to your spouse the way you would want your child to be spoken to in a moment of vulnerability. Tone communicates safety faster than logic ever will. Schedule mercy into your daily interactions. Mercy is not only for moments of crisis, it is built through small, consistent choices. A kind word when irritation would have been easier. A pause before reacting. A moment of grace when the heart wants to defend itself. This moment accumulates quietly, rebuilding trust over time. And remember, leadership in Islam has never been rooted in domination or emotional control. It is rooted in responsibility, accountability, and service. Strength is not shown by overpowering another heart, but by restraining one's own. When restraint leads and mercy follows, the home begins to feel safe again. Not because conflict disappeared, but because love learned how to guide it. Oh Allah, you are Latif, the one who is gentle in ways we cannot see. Place gentleness back into our marriages. Heal the wounds we ignored and soften the pride that kept us apart. Oh Allah, teach us how to apologize without fear, how to listen without defense, and how to love without conditions. Remove resentment from our hearts and replace it with understanding. Oh Allah, make our spouses a source of tranquility, not tension. Help us protect one another's dignity, even in disagreement. Where pain is hurting us, pour your mercy until we soften again. Unite our hearts upon truth, humility, and compassion. Amin ya Rabbal Alameen. If your marriage feels heavy today, do not rush to conclude that something has failed. Heaviness is often not the end of the story. It is the moment awareness begins. It is the heart recognizing that something matters enough to be healed rather than ignored. Healing a home does not happen overnight. It begins quietly with one softened heart, one apology offered without condition, one moment of listening without defense, one decision to choose mercy over being right. These small acts may feel insignificant, but they carry the power to change the emotional direction of an entire household. Your spouse was never meant to be your enemy. You were meant to be a source of tranquility for one another, a place of rest in a world that already demands so much. And even if your story feels strained right now, it is not finished. With humility, patience, and sincere intention, it can still be rewritten, not into a perfect story, but into a truthful and healing one. May Allah place Sakina back into your home, soften what has grown hard, and bring clarity to your heart where confusion once lived. May you replace tension with understanding and distance with mercy. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.